Hello everyone. This video is about Introduction to Cartesian Plane. Cartesian plane, or the rectangular coordinate system, is a powerful tool to interpret data. Many technical fields in science, engineering, and in medicine, just to name a few, use the rectangular coordinate system as a mathematical representation of important theories and concepts. For me, Cartesian plane is the arc of mathematics. Okay, so let's talk about the arc of mathematics. So in this particular figure, I introduce the basic terminology for a Cartesian plane. There are other terminologies applied to the richness of the Cartesian plane. And don't forget, this is a two-dimensional value that we are talking about here. Why do I say two-dimensional? Because it consists of the x-axis and the y-axis. Okay, so this is rectangular coordinated system. So if you have another dimension, let's say three-dimensional plane, then you have another axis is called the z-axis. But in this case, we just concentrate on the x and y. For this course, for this unit, we just talk about the x and y and the basic concept of the Cartesian plane. So before we get further into it, we need to learn all the terminology. So this is the graph paper that I try to present to everyone. And on that graph paper, I drew like a vertical line which representing the y-axis perpendicular to the horizontal line which is representing the x-axis. It's always like this. We cannot switch this as its order. Okay, the horizontal always the x, the vertical is always the y. So right at this part of this vertical line, okay, it will be the positive value for y. If you notice that right at the point where they perpendicular to each other, it's called the origin of this particular rectangular system. Okay, so this is your original point, which is 0, 0. They call the origin 0 and 0. Okay, so where x is equal to 0 and y is also equal to 0. Okay, so right at this point, it seems like it divide its value into specific value. So above the 0 here, you see it's called the positive y-axis. Consists of all the positive value for y. Increase to positive infinities. Okay, below here, you find it as the negative y-axis, and it start with like 0, go to -2, -4, -6. So it decreases until the negative infinities. Okay, and you notice that the increment between these two values are exactly the same. Okay, so the scale that you decide for your positive x-axis or the positive y-axis or the y-axis in general, the x-axis in general, have to be consistent. The increment between this value have to be equal to each other. Alright, so at the negative part of the y-axis, you see that the number will decrease to be very small to the negative infinity. Alright, so for this part of this graph, okay, so this one with the arrow show, from 0 you go to 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, so that means this is an increase to positive infinities. And opposite to that, this one decrease to negative infinities. So this is all the negative value for x on this side. Now, so let's talk about the next term for this. So we have the origin, we have the positive y-axis, we have the positive x-axis, and this 2 here, okay, will make up the quadrant 1. Okay, quadrant 1 is the one that representing the positive x-axis and the positive y-axis in the way that it divides the planes into 4 equal parts, so the 4 parts. And you start at the positive value for x, positive value for y, and you go counterclockwise this way. You go counterclockwise. Okay, so quadrant 1 started right here, consists of just only the positive value for x, positive value for y. Alright, so this is my quadrant number 2. Okay, quadrant number 2, you see in this part, it's just the positive value for y, but you have negative value for x. Because in this particular area, you will see that's the negative x-axis. So moving on to the next plane, because we go counterclockwise, right? We start from the positive x-axis, we go counterclockwise, so we go this way. So let me draw that arrow for everyone to show I'm going counterclockwise like this. Okay, I'm going counterclockwise. I'm starting from quadrant 1. I go to quadrant number 2. Each quadrant has its own characteristic representing all the numbers in here. Okay, all the numbers in here. So, but those numbers comes in pair. Okay, they call the order pair. The order pair consists of the x and the y. In this case, the point that I'm showing to everyone here is -7 and -3. So I will show everyone how to read this coordinate in a minute, but let me introduce the rest of the quadrant. So if you move here, you have quadrant number 3. So the characteristic of quadrant number 3 is both of the x and y's are negative, because here x negative and y negative. Now you're moving on to quadrant number 4, right? Quadrant number 4, you see this will be positive values for x and negative value for y. Alright, so let's read this point right here. So this point that I have right here, I have it as -7 and -3. How do I know that? Because right at this point, you project right onto the x-axis. You see that is the -7, and you project it onto the y-axis. Okay, so you read it as -7, -3 because you project it right on here. You project it right on here. You draw a line perpendicular to the x-axis to read the value for the x-axis. You draw a line perpendicular to the y value to read the value for y. So this point will representing the order pair of -7 and -3 as the coordinate. Okay? Alright. So let's continue with the next example. And in this example, we are going to plot the points on the provided rectangular coordinate system. Okay, we are going to plot all of this following point on this rectangular coordinating system. So just before we get started, we are to remind each other that the order pair will have the x comes first and then the y. Okay, x and y always comes with this order. So now let's start with the one that has the 0 as one of its value, either x or y. So I will start with a, b, g, and h. Okay, so for a, the first thing you want to do is you are going to take a look at the 0 and the 3. So where is the 0 for x? Right at the origin here, 0 for x. Where's the value for 3? 3 is the y, so you move up and you meet the 3 right on the y-axis. And in this case, positive y-axis. So if I click that point, it will be 0 and 3. Okay, so this one is 0 and 3. 0 for x, 3 for y. So this one is done. Okay, now moving on to the next, which is b. We have 4 and 0. Okay, so 4 is for x right here. 4 is for x. Where do I go to meet the 0? So right here, the 0 for y. So this point will be 4 and 0. So let's do that in red. Okay, so this is the 4 and this is the 0. 4 for x, 0 for y. So this point is 4, 0. So that one is also done. Okay, so what about g? G is 0 and -6. So that means x is 0, negative 6 is for y. Okay, so in that case, what I have to do is I have to move my screen a little bit further down so everyone can see the negative 6 for y, right? Okay, so right here I have 0 for x. So let me move the pointer into the origin. So this is the 0. And then how do I get to the negative 6? I just go straight down, and there is my negative 6. Okay, so in this case it will be 0 for x, negative 6 for y. Alright, so the next point on the graph is the h, which is negative 8 and 0. Okay, so negative 8 and 0. So here I have negative 8 for x, right? And then I project it to this to meet the 0 for the y. So this point on the graph will be right here, negative 8, 0. So this one is negative 8, 0. Negative 8 for x, 0 for y. Okay, so now we take care of the points where we read it right on the x-axis, right on the y-axis, right on the negative x-axis, right on the negative y-axis. Okay, so you see here, 4 is a positive 4 for x. This 3 is a positive 3 for y. This one is negative 8 for x, and this one is negative 6 for y. Okay, so the order pair comes as x, y, x, y, x, y, x, and y. Okay, so now let's continue with the next point. So this one I should have 3 and 5. So this one is very simple because they both have the positive values. So we know that it will stay on this quadrant number 1. So while I'm doing this, I will review the quadrant for everyone as well. Okay, so 3 and 5. So I will go and look for the 3 values on the x-axis. I bring this value up. Okay, and I will meet the 5 value, project it out from the y. So right here, 5. Okay, project it out and meet the 3, which is right here, right? So click on this point to see the 3 and the 5. There it is. Okay, here is the 3 going up. Okay, meet the 5 coming out from the y. So here I have 3 and 5. Alright, okay, so let me write the 3. So this one is 3 and 5. Okay, 3 for x, 5 for y. Alright, now, so this one is done. Okay, so D, negative 5 and 3. Okay, so negative 5, don't forget this is the x value, so this is the y value. This one will stay in quadrant number 2 because this quadrant will have the negative values for x, positive value for y. So I am going to find the negative 5, which is in between the negative 6 and negative 4. So this is negative 5. And I move up. Okay. And then I will see here is the 3. So I'm moving it out. So that is my value for negative 5 and 3. Okay. But I'm going to choose a different color. I will choose purple. Then here is my negative 5. And there's the 3. Alright, so this is the negative 5 and the 3. Negative 5 for x and positive 3 for y. Alright, let's continue on to the next point. The point E, this one is negative 4 and negative 2. Okay, so it will be in quadrant number 3. Because both of these values are negative. Okay, so negative 4 for x, which is right here, moving down, okay, so that I can project with the -3 coming out from here. Okay, so it's 4 and -2. I'm sorry, 4 and -2. So I go -4, -2, so that should be the point. Alright, okay, so -4 and -2. So -4 for x and -2 for y. Alright, okay, so let's write it a little bit bigger. -4 and then -2. So this point right here. Okay, so what else do we have to find? We are finding the 7 and the -3. 7 is positive, so it should be on the fourth quadrant. Okay, because the fourth quadrant we have x as positive, y as negative. So I have to go and find the 7 for x, so 7. So that means you move this down, and then you can see that from here is -3, you move it out, and you meet the point as 7 and -3. So this one I'm going to draw some line for everyone to recognize what we have done. Okay, so right here is the 7. You know that you are moving down this way so that you can meet the negative value that project to the y. So here is my 3, negative, because it's in between the -2 and -4. So you're going out like this, and then here is your point. Okay, so let me erase this part, and then I will click it here to show you this is the 7 and the -3. Alright, so that is done. We have all the point that we need. No, we don't. We need to find this point right here. Okay, -12.5 and -8. So this one will be in the third quadrant because of both values are negative. Now, I would like everyone to take a look at this. -12 and -14. So right in the middle should be -13. So where's -12.5? Is in between -13 and -12. Should be right in the middle right here. Okay, so right in the middle, we will project it down. Okay, so let me try to find a straight line. So I will project it down. Okay, project it down like this, and I need to project it out here. Okay, so right here should be the point -12.5 and then -8. Okay, so this one will be -12.5 and -8 as the order pair. Okay, so I hope I am clear with my instruction, and I am correct with all the values represented by x and y, and also in explaining I also say x and y accordingly, and also the x comes first and the next value should be the y. Okay, so pay attention to this order, always x and then y. You cannot alternate the order of these two pair, of this pair or these two numbers. I should say that. Okay, so always x come first and then y. You don't have any choice here. You cannot switch to have y comes first and then x. It doesn't work that way. So to read the order pair, x coordinate, then y coordinate. And on the Cartesian plane, x is always the horizontal line perpendicular with the vertical line representing the y, and that's how we can read all the values. Okay, so let's review. Quickly review this. So we are working with 0 and 3, right? So 0 and 3. So that means from 0 is x going up to meet the y as 3. So that is the point involving the 0 as the x-axis. Now the next point is 4 and 0. So 4 for x, so I go right onto the x-axis, and then I go down this way, I meet the 0. So this point stays right on the positive part of the x-axis. This point stays right on the positive part of the y-axis, and you see positive 3 and positive 4 right here. The next one we are talking about is negative 8 and 0. So that means I go to the negative 8 of the x-axis, project onto this origin to meet the 0. So this point is negative 8 and 0. So the next part is 0 and negative 6. So see this here, negative 6 representing the value for y. So it's right on the negative 6 of the negative part of the y-axis and project it into the origin to find the 0 for x. Okay, so these are the points that has the 0 as one of the value for the x or the y coordinate. Alright, so the next point we are talking about is 3 and 5. So here's for x, here's for y. So from x, pick where the 3 is moving up. Okay, so I can try to draw that line for everyone to see. So right here, okay, going down like that, right? And here, going out like that, just to meet these values. Okay, so this is 3 and 5, both positive, so they stay in the quadrant number 1. Okay. Alright, so I take that away just to show everyone just the point. What about negative 5 and 3? I'm sorry, okay? Negative 5 and 3. So if I mix up like this, I can tell everyone that it's old age. Okay, so I'm not as sharp as I used to be for reading and for so many years of teaching this, but the brain is still switched back and forth between the left and the right. Okay, so this one is kept saying negative 5 here, but I don't know why I saying negative 3. It's whenever it's happened like that, I always tell myself because of old age. Alright, okay, so let's get back to this. Negative 5 and 3. Negative 5, positive 3. Okay, so negative 5 representing the negative part of the x-axis. So therefore, what I do is I will go to the negative part of the x-axis. I draw a line perpendicular to this, but I'm moving up. Okay, then from here, from the 3 of the y, I will draw a line perpendicular to y, and I'm moving out. The two lines that meet each other will make the point negative 5 and 3. Okay, so that is the coordinate with the negative 5 for x and 3 for y. Okay, so now I'm going to take away that line that I just drew. Alright, okay, so moving to the next point, I believe this is negative 4 and negative 2. Okay, so negative 4 is x, negative 2 is y. So let me rewrite this to make sure that, excuse me, so I can have it consistent with the, so it's negative 4. Alright, okay. So again, what I have done is I will go to the 4, right? Negative 4 for x. I draw a line down, and here is the negative 2. I have to draw a line so that the 2 will meet. So when the 2 will meet, it makes the point that I want to plot. Alright, okay. So again, I erase that just to make sure that everyone will see the step. So moving on to this, you see is 7 and negative 3. So 7 is the positive value for x. Negative 3 is the negative value right on the negative part of the y. So project it down like this, and from here project it out to meet this line perpendicular to each other, and there's my point. Positive 7 and negative 3. So moving on to this point, negative 12.5 and negative 8. So right here I have negative 12 and negative 14. Okay, so the negative 12.5, I have to identify it. Identify it by knowing that this part is negative 13. So negative 13 should be the one that evenly in between the negative 4 and negative 12, right in the middle. So in the middle of negative 13 and negative 12 should be negative 12.5. So from here, I draw a line down, okay, and stop where the negative 8 projected out. So this point will be the coordinate representing this point, negative 12.5 and negative 8. Alright, so I do feel that we cover everything we need to cover for the introductions of the Cartesian plane. Okay, don't forget to remember the quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4, and positive x-axis, positive y-axis, negative x-axis, negative y-axis, and the origin as well. Alright, so those are the basic terminology of the Cartesian plane or the rectangular coordinate system, and we also plot all of this point on this Cartesian plane uh, in details and showing everyone how it actually works. Alright, thank you everyone, and I appreciate your patience because I repeat myself a few times how to plot this point on the graph. Okay, I hope that everyone realizes it's very important to recognize all the terminology, knowing how to plot this point so that later on we will get the correct straight line or the correct graph on this Cartesian plane, because if we messed up with the position of x and y, we messed up the linear function or the equation representing on this certain function on this Cartesian plane. And we talk about the slope as well, and we will talk about linear function, and we will introduce that linear function, the x and y, as an equation in the next lesson. Alright, thank you everyone.